Assalamu alaikum all, and today I am here to speak to you about the Ottoman history and mainly the relationship of the Ottoman Empire and Ottoman Caliphate to the Al-Quds, to the history of Al-Quds. My name is Elmira Akhmetova, and I am from the International Islamic University Malaysia, from the Department of History and Civilization. So before starting the session, I just wanted to mention to you that I am not the expert on the Palestinian issue. So the direction will be, or my speech will be mainly related to the historical part and also its relationship with the Ottoman rule only. So let us, we are awaiting some people to join and several people join. So this is how we are managing the live videos, because in the beginning we are waiting for other people. But before that one, what I wanted to mention to you, when we are talking about Al-Quds, we can call it Al-Quds or Palestine or Jerusalem. All the time we are mentioning, or we are talking about the place which is there, which is very valuable for three world civilizations and world religions, the civilizations based on religion. Number one is Judaism. Number two is Christianity. And because both of these religions started from this place, it's why it's considered for them as a holy place or the sacred place. And also for Islam, for Muslims, the Al-Quds is also considered as a third sacred place, because this is and not only because of the Isra and Mi'raj only. Yes, we usually in the classical explanation, we mention about it as a relationship to the Isra and Mi'raj. No, not only that one. In the Quran, always Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the Christianity and Judaism, and always it's trying to show, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows to us that how these three religions are interrelated. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's great-grandfather Ismail alayhi salam was coming from the same places, and he was from the Semitic the tribe, but is from the Arabs, not from the Hebrews. So these are all related to this one. And also the history of Al-Quds is very complicated. It was occupied by many great powers. So in the beginning, we know from Quran and Sunnah, and also from Bible, from the Torah, we know that in the 10th century BC, there were the states of the Dawud alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam. These are the passages also from the Quran. Then there was the state of Israel for around 2 centuries only, until the 8th century BC. Then Assyrians were capturing it. After the Assyrians, it was the Persian rule. After the Persian rule, it was the Greek rule, because the Alexander the Great is going to occupy these places, and the Roman rule. Then Khulafa Rashidun time will start. From the Khulafa Rashidun time, also during the Islamic rule time, it was not perfectly ruled by the only one dynasty only. In the beginning of Khulafa Rashidun, then the Umayyads were established, and Umayyads were choosing their center as the Damascus, very close to this place. It's why the Palestine becomes as a part of the Umayyad rule. After that, the Abbasids, after Abbasids, Fatimids, and the Seljuks. Only then the Crusade time will come. So all the time when the rulers were changing from one to another, mostly they were having revolutions and the battles and the killings. Sometimes the massacres were happening because of the political reasons. So then the Crusade time. From the Crusade time, then I hope that what was happening last, the video online, this is should we consider a class or the video conference during this time? You were mentioning about the Crusade time and other times. So I'm not going to mention about it. Maybe in some of the places I will just mention as examples from there only. Then Ayyubids came. Ayyubids are going to battle and they will be able to defeat the Crusades and the Crusade waves coming, the Richard the Lionheart and others. And after that, there will be the Mongols are going to capture the same place. and there will be the Battle of the Jalut. So the Mamluks are going to take this place. After the Mamluks, Ottomans are coming. So we are here. So I tried to show you how this place was captured by many rulers and how it was happening and how it was coming. So in the beginning of when I was invited to give this talk, I was given 3 questions. So question number 1, let me give you the letter, the questions will appear there. So I am here. I want to briefly share the situation of the Ottoman Caliphate. In the beginning, as I was asked to give some information, I want to share how the Ottoman Sultanate, usually I call it the Sultanate, and also maybe sometimes I will call it the Osmanlı, because usually in my classes I am using the Turkish variation of the Osmanlı. It's why maybe if I will say it mistakenly, please consider Osmanlı here means the Ottoman, the Caliphate or the Sultanate, which belong to the family of the Osman. So here, how they were able to come out as a very successful Sultanate. I don't want to, again here, another thing, I don't want to mention, I don't want to call the Osmanlı as a caliphate very much, even in my classes, because Osmanlı sultans were never claiming to be a sultan. They were calling themselves by the titles of the Ghazi. Ghazi is from the Ghazi, from the Arabic, from the Ghazawa, that who were fighting for the sake of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the way of the religion. Another one they were calling also the Khan. So they were called the Khan themselves. Khan is from the Turkish and the Mongolian variation. It is also called the king. And interestingly, Mehmed II, when the Fatih to Constantinople, he started calling himself as a Caesar or the Caesar. So they were using the different names, but most of the name, what they were using was Sultan. Sultan or the Sultan is related to the political role, because sultans were mainly taking part of the political side, but the Shaykhul Islam, they were having the one institution which was called the Shaykhul Islam, or the Shaykh, or who is knowledgeable of Islam, was taking part of the religious affairs. So how this Ottoman Sultanate or the state was established? The first time the name of the Osman was mentioned in the Friday Khutbahs in the year of 1289. So this is considered the beginning of the Ottoman Sultanate, because name of the Osman was mentioned in the Khutbah. So this means these people are loyal to this ruler, and this was happening in the small province in Anatolia today, in Sugut province. But this Osman, he was the son of Ertugrul Ghazi, who was they were from the Kayı clan, from the Oghuz tribe, the same like the Seljuks, but Seljuks were from the Kanak clan, another clan. So this Ertugrul Ghazi, the father of the Osman, was in the service to the Seljuk Sultanate. Seljuks were already weakening, and the Kayhusrev, the last sultan, didn't have children, so he considered Osman as his own child. So at the end, he started giving some kind of the gifts to him, and as a result, in the South province, the Ottoman Sultanate started growing. And it was growing very fast. It's amazingly, it started in the very small province. Later, they will move until the Bosphorus Strait, but they will be not able to get the Bosphorus Strait until the middle of the 15th century, until the time of the Mehmed II. But they are going to from the other side, from the Dardanelles side to the Eastern European side. Even during the time of the 4th or the 5th, the Sultan of the Ottomans in the 13th century. So how was the world during this time when Ottomans were established? So don't forget, this is the end of the 13th century. What was happening in the 13th century in the world? If you remember, year of 1258. 1258 is the year of the fall of Baghdad. So it was the time when the Mongols were destroying a lot of the centers of the Islamic civilization. It was not happening only in Beit al-Hikmah. In many places they were, wherever they were going, they were destroying in the forest. And also in the places of the modern Russia, also it did happen. Always, I am from Russia. It's why I like to add the many examples from Russia. So in Russia also there were several the centers of Islam, the main center of the Islamic civilization, and they started also. I mean, when the Mongols came, they were also destroying. It was the same thing was happening, but later they became they converted into Islam very fast, and they started contributing to Islamic civilization. But anyway, entire the social fabric and civilizational fabric and also intellectual development in the Muslim world was destroyed. It was destroyed. So this was the time when the Ottomans are going to emerge. So then the Sicily. Until this time, Sicily was the part of Islamic civilization too. But in the year of 1240, just before the establishment of the Ottoman state, there was the end of the Islamic State, and Granada was weakening. So in the European side, the Muslim rule is weakening, but in the eastern side, Osmanli or the Ottomans started rising. But in the Muslim world, it is the total mess because of the Mongol invasion, because of the establishment of the new rulership. The Muslims somehow they were very much the concern about the political rulership, and they are always like this. So this was the time when they were establishing the new Khalid dynasties and the other dynasties, and the local rulers were trying to get to do the opportunities. So it was the difficult time. Now, then what was happening in Europe? What were the main great powers in Europe during this time? Number one, Byzantium or Byzantine Empire. So Byzantine Empire. Byzantine Empire its capital city was Constantinople, and their religion was Orthodox Christianity. And it means now from the very beginning, Ottomans were just coming and reaching the capital city of the Byzantium or Byzantine Empire. So they were already, because from the Ottoman side, the Anatolian side, if you are today who were traveling or you are from the Turkey, when we are standing on the Asian side of Istanbul, today's Istanbul, in history it was Constantinople, you can see the European side. It's just the Bosphorus Strait. I don't know how many meters, but you can see the one side from another. So all the time, the emperor or the popes were standing on that side, and they were seeing what is happening in the Islamic side. So how it was happening. But Byzantium was quite strong. And they were strong because of location. They were next to the Bosphorus Strait. And if you are controlling the strategic location, you are strong. It's not about the military power only. It's not about your wills, but about the strategic location. And this is also related to Palestine, today what is called Palestine, or the Quds, because the location is also very strategic. It is next to later I will mention about it, is Suez Canal today, and also how Suez Canal was very important for the British. Later I will mention to you why Palestine became the difficulties were happening because of the rise of imperialism and also nationalism. That one I will mention to you. Now we are still in the 13th or the 14th century. So after that, another important power was Hungarian Empire, and it was very strong. And there were the Serbian kingdoms and the Bulgarian kingdoms, Wallachian kingdoms, many other kingdoms in the medieval Europe. But they are going to fight against the Ottomans. But again, I want to mention to you, all the time in my classes, I'm mentioning about it. When we are talking about the medieval time, the wars, what I'm seeing from the Ottoman history, they were not about religion at all. They were about the trade, about the political sovereignty, and about the keeping the boundaries of their countries. And from the very beginning, also the Ottoman sultans were mentioning, they were saying that the jihad is compulsory for them. But jihad for them was not fighting against non-Muslims. They didn't consider that they have to go and they capture the Constantinople because they are Orthodox Christians. No, this was not the main reason. The main reason for them was about for the battles, mainly the keeping or the maintaining the boundaries of their state. It is mainly political. And number two, also it was the trade. Trade was also very important for them. And the third one was because of the realities of that time. There will be the one, because history is never, we cannot just historical the one phase and take it from the out of the context and analyze. No, one event is creating another event. So the one time Byzantine Empire is going to steal the Shahzada or the prince and keeping it until the next the Sultan will be appointed, and after that freeing the prince in order to fight against newly appointed sultan. So such kind of things were happening, such kind of political intrigues all the time were happening, and the battles were happening because of such kind of reasons. But yes, their identity was number one, was the identity for the Ottomans was Islam, Sunni Islam, Hanafi Islam, and for the Byzantium it was Orthodox Christianity. So this was the situation of the world. But how let me give the time. I want to mention to you how Ottomans were able to become the superpower of the world in the 16th century very soon. This is number one, I related to the leaders, to the political leader, mainly to the sultans. It's amazing. I will mention to you later. Selim first, who is going to make Al-Quds the part of the Ottoman Sultanate. He is ordering to prepare food for 3 years. It means this Sultan is among his army for 3 years. He is walking on his foot and he is riding his horse. He is not returning back to the harem, the palace. No, for 3 years he is going to be among people, among the soldiers. So seeing the soldiers, seeing their sultan next to them, it was motivating the army, motivating people. So everyone was on the same plate. Everyone was sharing the same experience. It's why unity and solidarity was always coming first, because Sultan was showing the best example for people. There are many anecdotes from or the stories from the Ottoman history. I'm not going to share. There are plenty of things. Later you can contact me if you want. I can give some examples to you. My main aim is not here. So what is my aim? I am trying to show that the sultans were the most capable people to rule, because they were number one among people, having solidarity, and also not only experiencing the experience of ordinary people, how it's difficult to fight, how it's difficult to see the enemy, how it's difficult to kill the enemy. And the sultans were killed on the battlefields. For example, in the battle of the Kosovo, when it was the Murad first time, only few people were killed from the Ottoman side, and one of them was Sultan. Sultan was fighting against the enemy and he was killed during this time. Okay, the Sultan, this is example for people. Number two, they got the training. From the very early age, the sultans were sending their sons to get the training. From the early age does not mean 18, okay? It means the 5, 6, 7, because the Mehmed II first time became sultan already at the age of 12. But he was already trained to be the sultan, because he got the training in the province Manisa, and according to some sources, Amasya. So he got already training. He was trained. They were appointed as the governors and given full freedom under the supervision of the Shaykh, usually the Sufi Shaykh, and also under the supervision of the one advisor, political advisor. They were well trained to become the sultan. So they were the most capable people. Number two, after this is the rulers. It is about society. later also I will mention about the Beit al-Quds here. It is about society. If you want to make the nation strong, or your country strong, or your sultanate, your caliphate strong, you have to really take care. You have to take care of your people. So what the Ottomans were doing, when they were opening a new land, their the aim was not something the capturing, the capturing more wells. No, they were, these things were happening, but the main aim of the Sultan was in order to give welfare to people. They were opening bazaars. They were opening Imarat system. Imarat system is a free kitchen. This is to feed the poor and also the elderly. They were providing food they were building the kulliyat. Each sultan were having the kulliyat. Kulliyat means the complex or the mosque complex. And this complex it was not only the mosque, it was having also the Madrasatul Awwal, Sani, Salis, Rabi'. So 4-5 levels of the educational system, plus the Madrasatul Tib, or they call the Tib, or the medical college, having also the hospital there next to the mosque, bazaar, and also the free kitchen for elderly, the many other facilities. So people were really taken care. And such kind of facilities were not only for Muslims. They were also created in the Balkans and in other places also. So, but of course, in the center, they will be the more facilities for them. As a result, and also the militarily, they were quite well, because they became wealthy. The Ottomans became the superpower of the world by the end of the 15th century. So Suleiman al-Qanuni, or Suleiman the lawgiver's time, is happening, and during his time, the position was put higher, much higher than any other ruler's position at that time. So it was a superpower. None of the big happenings in the world were happening without knowing him. If some European powers, for example, when they were having some kind of the argumentations or the wars, one side was coming and complaining. There are some examples in history. So Osmanlı became the safeguard of the Ottomans, became the safeguard of also the world order of this time, especially in the Mediterranean Sea and Indian Ocean later. So this was how the situation was happening during this time, how Ottomans became strong. Let me move to the part. It is about how Palestine, this is the Beit al-Maqdis. I think the Beit al-Quds. Al-Quds became the part of the Ottomans. So the question was, after years, the Ottomans came into power and sustained the liberation of Al-Quds. How were the situations of the Muslims during those days in the preserving Al-Quds against the next attempt of Crusade? What were their way of thinking and excellent values that should be taken as example for use today? That question, it was given to me sometime earlier. I was thinking, I told a lot, how is the liberation and other things. So let me try to explain it according to my own understanding and my readings. As again, I am mentioning, I am not the big expert in this is the Palestinian issue, but I teach the Ottoman history for, I think, more than 5 years at the International Islamic University, Malaysia. But usually my main concentration, my specialization is on the late stage of the Ottoman history. So how the Osmanlı or Ottomans were going to Palestine? They didn't aim to get the Al-Quds. So in history, it was not happening that, okay, let me go and let me get, because this is sacred. Even about the opening of the Constantinople, I tell the same to my students or during my talks. No, it was not happening because of the religious reasons, but religion was always used as a agenda or the tool to motivate people only. So during this time, it was a time of the Salim first. He was the grandson of Mehmed or the Fatih, Mehmed II or the Fatih. He was the Selim Yavuz. The nickname was Yavuz. He was a very strong leader and very strong. So he was having, during his time, he was having problems with two Muslim rulership. Number one is Safavids. Safavids they are the Safavids from the modern territory of the Iran. I mean, they were covering, it was a quite huge territory they were covering in history, and they started coming to the Anatolian side. So because of the, as I mentioned to you, jihad for the Ottomans were maintaining and also protecting their territories by fighting. So now they needed to go and fight against the Safavids. So battle did happen. And also this battle was happening because some of the Muslims, Sunni Muslims were killed during this time. This is another topic. I don't want to go there. So there were reasons for the battle. Now they went to fight against the Safavids. But during this battle time, Selim asked help from the Mamluks. Mamluks were ruling from Cairo, from Qahira, and Beit al-Quds or al-Quds was under them, under these Mamluks. Bilad al-Sham, today is the Lebanon, Jordan, and also the Syria. These places were under and some parts of they were under the influencing also the Saudi Arabian, some parts of Saudi Arabian territory today, so they were under Mamluks. Mamluks were the one who were fighting against the Mongols and also establishing the Mamluk territory there. So now Mamluks didn't support Selim against the Safavids. But instead of the supporting during the battle time, when the Selim first was fighting against the Safavids, they started sending the people to the villages and the towns under the Ottoman rule and asking them to call the name of the Mamluk Sultan Al-Qansu Al-Awri, Mamluk Sultan, to name as a ruler of these places. It means the people are already loyal. They are no more loyal to the Ottoman Sultanate. They are loyal to the Mamluk Sultanate. So Selim first considers this one as a betrayal by the power, because this was considered this attitude, because we are not talking about 21st century what did happen. Today such kind of things will happen. What we are going to do? We will just complain to you and the United Nations. We will complain, we will cry, we will sit and we will wait and wait and wait. This is the 21st century is the world order, right? But during this time, such kind of attitude among the Muslim states, it was considered declaration of war. So they want to fight against another power. Instead of saying, I'm declaring war, they are just going to the village or the town and asking from the imam or making him afraid and telling the name of another sultan in their mentioning in the Friday khutbah. So it means now this place belongs to another sovereignty, another political rulership. So as a result, of course, Selim was not happy for it. And what he did, he asked from his administration to prepare food for 3 years. It is 3 years. So Sultan is going to go to battle for 3 years to fight against another Muslim, the Muslim country or Muslim sultanate. So it's why I was mentioning it was not about religion, because in our history, the most of the wars were happening. Muslims were fighting against Muslims because of many reasons. So it's why I really don't like to see the things in the framework of the conflict or the clash of religions or the civilizations. No, it is not the clash of the religions or civilizations. Clash of the conflicts are happening mainly. And the Europe was also suffering from the battles between the Christian powers, not against Muslims. So, but the battles were based on the political framework, not on the religious framework or the religion was always used. Now Selim is going with the huge army, 40,000 people, 40,000 people is going, but still he is not willing to fight because Mamluks also from the Turkic, the descendants, they are Mamluks are from the Turkic, the sultans from the Turkic family ruling from the Cairo, and also they are, they are Muslims. He didn't want. He sent envoy in order to solve this problem in peace, but the messengers of the Salim first were captured by the Qansu al-Ghawri, and then there was no any news were coming. So after that, the Qansu al-Ghawri was coming with a bigger army, 50,000 soldiers, to Bilad al-Sham side. So they met near Aleppo in the place called the Marsh Dabiq, and the battle took place in 1516. Osmanli army, Ottoman army was the successful. As a result, Al-Quds became the part of the Ottoman Sultanate. So this was the history. There was nothing related to liberation or the Crusades. No, it was not such kind of, yes, we like the young people like to have the big slogans to see how they were at the fighting. No, it was just political reasons. And they needed to keep the Ottomans wanted to keep the sovereignty of their country, and they are coming to battles. Two armies are fighting against each other. One army, Ottoman army, will be successful. Qansu al-Ghawri is going to be killed during the battle time. Now, as a result, the territory becomes the Ottoman territory because this is happening in the 17th century, not 21st century. So always consider according to the rules and the norms of the 16th and 17th centuries during this time. So Salim didn't return back yet because in Cairo, the Mamluk Sultanate still existing. And Tuman Bey, another person, was the elected there because the Qansu al-Ghawri was coming out from this place. From the capital. They meet in Bilad al-Sham, in the periphery or the place close to the border of the Mamluk Sultanate. So next year they are going to get the Cairo also, and the all territory of the Mamluk Sultanate is becoming as a part of the Ottomans. But the Mamluk family was not persecuted, and they continued there until the time of the Muhammad Ali Pasha, the later Ottoman rule. So Mamluks continued there as a regional, the respected the family, like the noble family, but the sultans, the Ottomans, were ruling this place. So how it was happening. And during this time also, when the Ottomans were reaching until here, Sharif of Mecca decides to become loyal to the Ottoman Sultan Salim first too. So during this time, now Salim didn't return back yet, but the Sharif Hussein, not Hussein, Sharif of Mecca and Medina, or the ruler of Mecca and Medina, he is going to send his son with the keys of Kaaba. It means now Kaaba, Mecca, Medina, also under the control of the Ottoman Sultanate. So how it was happening? So it means the Ottomans were not going there with the intention of capturing Al-Quds. It was political reason there, but at the end, Ottoman army is coming back now with capturing a lot of the places and having the control of all three sacred places of Islam: Mecca, Medina, and Al-Quds. So Salim first, he ordered, when he was returning to, it was a big thing, right? They're having such kind of the victory in the 16th century. And this was as I am mentioning, don't judge anything according to your own value system. We are talking about 16th century world order. Now he was of course, he was very happy, but he was also humbled. He didn't want to enter to Istanbul, Constantinople. Istanbul is under the Islamic rule, but still the Ottomans were using the earlier name Constantinople in the official papers, but people were using Istanbul. Now he didn't want to enter to Istanbul during the daytime because he didn't want to have celebration For him, it was nothing to celebrate because he was defeating another Muslim power. Yes, he is countering, but it was not something to celebrate for him. He will enter, he and his army, they entered during the night time, nobody know about it. And in the morning, people wake up in the Topkapi Palace and Sultan and the army are already back. So then what he did, he started a new tradition. You can say it bid'ah or the tradition or the custom. It's up to you how you are going to identify it. He appointed 40 Hufas, who know Quran by heart, and they started reciting Quran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day. So from that time until now, today is also happening in the Topkapi Palace. From 1516, the battle was 17, late 17, he was returning back. So from that time until now, this recitation of Quran in Istanbul didn't stop until now. So everyone continues reciting. One person becomes already tired, another person will continue. So this is until now. It didn't stop even during what I know, it didn't stop even during the Turkish Republic time. It continues until now. So what he did after that for Al-Quds. In the first population, during this time, it was Al-Quds, it was 200,000 people, what I found from the Sheikh Google, because I was Googling a little bit in order to find some information, because you like the data and other things. We like the huge things, numbers today. So this was centralized under the Ottoman control until the end of the 16th century, around 100 years. After 100 years, Al-Quds became decentralized because of the Jalali revolts. Now it will be under the control of the Ottomans, but still it is decentralized rule. And they are going to be, Al-Quds was divided into sometimes 3, sometimes 4 the districts related to the rulership, because we are talking about the 4 centuries here. And they are going to be mainly under Bilad al-Sham, until Suez Canal is going to be open. Suez Canal was opened in the year of 1869. So when the Suez Canal opened, by the British, the Ottoman Sultan at that time, he felt that there is a danger that the British, now because Suez Canal, the British really wanted to control all the surroundings and around the Suez Canal, because for the British it was very important, essential to control the Suez Canal. How they were pushing also the Caliph of the Cairo or the Egypt at that time to build this Suez Canal, although the rulership in Egypt, they were not having money. They were getting loan from the European banks. At the end, Egypt became under the control of these European countries, even before the British invasion, how British started controlling Suez Canal and Egypt. So now the Ottoman Sultan felt that now they may also control the Palestine, because from the Sinai, from the other side of the Suez Canal, the Palestine or the Al-Quds starts, they decided to separate the Al-Quds from the Damascus or the Bilad al-Sham district, and they put it directly under the Ottoman rulership. But this was about the political, how administration was happening. In the beginning of still about administration, I want to tell something. So, in the beginning, always the Ottomans were strong. They were very strong until the 17th century, until the Jalali revolts, what I was mentioning, until the 17th century. They were very strong. Yes, the empire was huge. It became empire already. It was huge. Ottomans. It was covering the North Africa, Cairo, and coming to the Middle East. From the Middle East, Iraq, some places of all the Middle East I'm mentioning here. and also the places of the Black Sea, almost all the Eastern Europe and Greece. It was huge. It was covering a huge territory and it was very powerful. But later it started declining. So still, even during this declining time, still they tried to control their places. But what was the main contribution to the people, society of Al-Quds? Here, I want to show to you not about the Muslims, because about Muslims you can read about it. I want to mention to you about the people of the book, the Jews and Christians. You have to remember that when Umar radiallahu anhu entered Al-Quds, there were only few families of the Jews living on the one side of the, according to some accounts, only few, the families, two family or the three family, I don't remember now what I was hearing. So because it was purely Christian country, I mean the Christian place, and it was the holy place and the center of the Christianity during this time. But also when the Umar Ibn Khattab, he got this place and he didn't discriminate any Christians, and people started converting into Islam. Yes, they started living together in peace. Christians, this is the local Christians and Muslims, but there was some kind of the most probably the agreement that the Jews were not coming back to this place yet. Also, this is because of the Jewish belief that they have to return back to the Holy Land only when the Messiah is going to come. So this were they didn't come back yet. But the things have changed because of the fall of Granada. Muslim Spain was not only home to the Muslims, and it was the home to the thousands of the Jews also. So when the Christian army was capturing these places, the many Jews were also persecuted. As Muslims, they were also given only the two choices, to convert into Christianity or leave the place. So they were living together with Muslims to the Muslim places, mainly to the Ottoman territory. And in the beginning, they were going to the North Africa, and some of them went also to Yemen. Later, they are going to move slowly to this is the Al-Quds. So it's how slowly it started there, the population started growing. And this is the main thing, how the Jews were not given permission to return back to and to live in their places. They were not given permission. But when the Muslims came, they started giving permission, and later you will see there the population is going to grow rapidly later in the late period of the Ottoman rulership. So let me bring the Jews were able to settle in Palestine. Yes, this is the number one of the what I was mentioning to you. And also here, what the Ottomans, how were they treating the non-Muslims? They, in the beginning, it was a millet system. So all of the non-Muslims were grouped according to their religion, not according to the ethnicity, because ethnicity, nationalism is something very new. Later, very soon, I'm going to discuss about it. And this is the main source of the problem, what we are having in the holy places today and also in the world, because of the racism, because of the nationalism. But the non-Muslims were given full freedom under the Ottoman rule to practice their religion, to rule all the happenings about the problems in their life and our social life, the political life, according to their own revealed books and also their legal system. So they were given full freedom, and they were also the one person was appointed by the Sultan. Sultan was not interfering into the life of non-Muslims. They were they were paying jizya, and this jizya was mainly collected by their own army, their own people. But why this jizya was requested from them? Because they were not taking part in the battle. It's why it is called for defense. Usually we explain it for the defense. But yes, there were some excuse, some kind of the some cases. It was not happening different, but I'm not talking about the cases. I'm talking about the general, the common things, what was mainly practiced. So millets, it is amazing, you know, when the Bayezid was having the problem with Timur-Lenk. This is the early time in 1402. The battle of the near Ankara is there will be the battle. Two Muslim powers are going to fight. One is the Ottoman Sultan Bayezid, and another one is the Timur-Lenk from the Mongols, also the Muslim. They are going to fight, and also the Bayezid is going to be killed. But all Muslims who were living under the Ottoman rule all started revolting. There was a civil war, except the Christians. Christians were happily living because Christians, sometimes even the Christians were opening the gates to the Ottoman army. Because usually in the life, it was not, as I mentioned to you, not much about religion. It was about the life of people, about the well-being of people, about the opportunities, what people were having to be happy. So under the Ottoman rule, feudalism was not much strong as feudalism under the European powers. They were having the bigger land, they were having the less tax system, and they were having also freedom to move from one place to another. There are many books. If you are interested, you can find some books, some articles, you can read about it. So it was the millet system. But because of the emergence of nationalism, now after the French Revolution, especially in Europe, now people were not already divided into the groups according to the religion. So millet system was outdated. Then what the Ottomans did? They just look what the Europe is doing with the different minorities, and they came out with the Tanzimat reform. Tanzimat reform was starting in the 1839, and it was happening until the first constitution, 1876, if I am not mistaken. So during this time, there were many reforms, but these reforms were mainly related to the non-Muslim status. They were given full freedom. So Jews, Christians, Armenian Christians, also others, they are the Muslims, all were considered citizens of the Ottoman state. Osmanlıcılık started, or Ottomanism. So they were all called Ottomans, and they were all equal before the law. Because of this, it was happening in the Ottoman lands, but many Jews living in Eastern Europe, mainly in Ukraine today, or Russia. Today is the Russian territory, and it was including Ukraine, some places of the Poland. Jews started having persecutions, which is called the pogrom. It was the massive persecution. They were killed, and all their business were taken. So they knew that the Ottomans are giving opportunities to be equal to them, and they started migrating to the places, which is the Al-Quds and other places in big numbers. But also they were also traveling to USA and some European places, Western European places, the Germany and other places, and Austria also. So how it was happening. And also last thing related to the second question, Suleiman al-Qanuni. Suleiman al-Qanuni, he is during the superpower time of the Ottomans. Why he was called the Qanuni, or the lawgiver? Because he was able to collect all the laws given by the sultans, and he collected all of them into one code. So Sharia, and these are the explanations related to the time and also related to the space. So they were giving more explanation. Here, he made education compulsory for all boys. I am talking about about the 16th and 16th century. All boys supposed to get education, including Muslims, non-Muslims, and it was free. So from here you can see how was the situation and during this time. So of course, when we are talking about what the Ottomans were doing in order to keep these places under their control, of course, this was their main aim as a political power. But they were also not focusing only Al-Quds. But still, there was the problem in the later because what was happening later in the 16th century, and later in the 17th, after that 17th century, Portuguese started rising, and Indian Ocean was called the Portuguese Lake. This was happening because Portuguese were already, they started expanding the imperialistic expansion because of trade, because they wanted to get these strategic locations, and they wanted not to capture the Quds, they wanted to capture the Mecca, according to some sources. They wanted to capture Mecca, and from Mecca, they wanted, after the capturing of the Mecca Portuguese, they wanted to make if they will achieve it, they wanted to put to the table of negotiation with the Ottomans to say, okay, we have Mecca, you have Al-Quds. We can change it if you want. So we are going to get access to Quds, and you are going to get access to the Mecca. And you know, this place is interestingly, amazingly, capital city of earlier Byzantium Empire, now capital city of the Ottomans, Constantinople or Istanbul. And also the Al-Quds, I just mentioned to you, it's close to the Suez Canal, next to the Suez Canal. And also the Mecca, Red Sea, don't forget. These places are all situated on the very strategic location. So this was also, the Portuguese was not interested only in religious things. They were interested also. They grew up, they expanded as a trade power also, as a superpower oriented onto trade. Of course, they had also some religious agenda on there. So such kind of course, during this time, it does not, they didn't have the specific mission, I mean the Ottomans, that we have to save only this place. No, they were fighting until the last minute, until they tried very hard to defend all the places what were there under control, because they consider they are given this amana. All the time sultans were considering they are given amana of the defend the land, and also amana of the give the well-being or the welfare to people and the good life to people. And of course, they wanted to keep everything under their control. So how it was happening. So this is how Ottomans were ruling. There are many stories, as I mentioned, you can Google, you can find, because I have another one, the topic to cover. My time will end after the half hour. After that, if you have questions, you can write. After, I will read and I will answer to the third part, what I wanted to mention. This is about the last part of the Ottoman rule. Last part of the Ottoman rule in Al-Quds and also other places. How it was happening. So Ottomans were very strong, but how it was happening? One day, these places were lost to others, and the entire Middle East was colonized. Not only Palestine, entire Middle East was colonized. So it was the global transformations during the late centuries, Ottoman Caliphate, and the coming from the European imperialism, and also the internal problems of the Osmanlis having. And also the question is, can you share with us about the condition of the Ottoman Empire and the European powers at that particular time, which led to the Ottomans, the fall of the Ottoman rulership and loss of Al-Quds? Were there any mistakes that can be learned by our current generation? Let me try to explain this one, how I understand. I understand things. I am historian, because how historians are working. We have the different happenings, different events, different details, and according to our worldview perspective, worldview is done by our background, by our training, by our education. We are linking and we are giving explanation. So this explanation is not considered as the best one. There are ikhtilaf always. It's why we respect the idea of other people in history, because everyone is trying to explain according to their own understanding, according to their own evidences, dalil, because nothing is qadri in history. It's not easy to dig the art and find the artifact and say this was this one. No, it is not like this is happening in history. So let me try to explain in a very simple way what was happening in the end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century. Do you remember I mentioned to you the Suez Canal, 1869? Suez Canal was open. And because of this Suez Canal, this Cairo and other places, they started having the emergence or appearance of the British in this place, mainly in Cairo. They started controlling firstly the financial side, because the banks were Khedive Ismail was getting a lot of money in order to build the Suez Canal. He wasn't able to pay it. As a result, the banks were forcing the British Empire and the Italian to come and be there. Also, North Africa is already under occupation of some of the forces. Algeria under the France, and also Italy. Also, it will happen very soon after that. It is not happened, so still already they started the planning such kind of things. So, as I mentioned to you, Ottomans were declining during this time. They are no more a superpower. They tried to do reforms. One of the reforms was Tanzimat. They tried to give freedom to everyone and try to be modern, but it didn't work, because non-Muslims were demanding over the independence during this time. So a lot of the independence movement started, revolts against the Ottoman Empire. At the same time, Muhammad Ali Pasha, who was sent by the Ottoman Sultan to get the independence for the Cairo or from the Napoleon Bonaparte. He establishes himself as a Caliph, and he starts getting independence. He was really the threat to the Ottoman Empire, because his son Ibrahim was coming almost until the Istanbul and demanding to get all the places in the Middle East under the Muhammad Ali Pasha's rule. So these were happening, not only the non-Muslims, Muslims also, who were the places ruled by the Muslims also started raising the voice. They wanted to get all independence. So for the Ottoman state, it was not easy to keep these places. And also a lot of the problems were happening inside of the palace. Sultans who were coming to the rule, they are no more, not all of them were capable to rule, and also they didn't have the ability to fit in the modern style of the rulership. The European powers were more capable, they were more progressed, and Ottomans were declining, and they were declining rapidly, very badly, in terms of the military, in terms of the administration, financial system, rulership. So they tried, but they were not able to keep themselves as a strong rulership in power, because according to Ibn Khaldun's the explanation, all the time cycle goes up, everything is rising. After the rising, there is necessary, it is unavoidable, there will be decline. After the good times, there will be bad times also, because of the rulers will be not much interested in the unity of the society. So many places started getting autonomy or started revolting. And the motivation for people to get independence was nationalism. So we really like nationalism in some places. Among the Muslims today, we see this is the foundation. But I am not talking about nationalism. What is we have to infuse and they come together with Islam. We are trying to explain. I am talking about the nationalism which was close to the racism, and they started using it for the getting of independence. And also in Muslim world, including in Malaysia, in Indonesia, where you use also nationalism to get independence as a independence movement. So they did the same. Non-Muslims were doing the same, and we did the same. So nationalism was used. So after that, nationalism was not only emerging among the non-Muslims or the others, it also started spreading widely among Turks, especially the modern Turks educated in modern institutions, which were the outcome of the Tanzimat reforms, new schools, and also the going to Europe. They started coming and started questioning, we are the Turks, why we need to spend a lot of money for other periphery who are not the Turks, let us consider on Turks. Such kind of ideas were already on air. During this time, young Turk revolution did happen, 1908, beginning of the 20th century, before First World War. Young Turk revolution happened. As a young Turk revolution, sultans, it was the time of the Sultan Abdul Hamid II. His power was reduced. The Sultan's power was reduced. Country started being ruled by prime minister and also by the parliament. It's why I always say to my students that this is the end of the Supreme Ottoman rule. What is happening after 1908 is nothing is related to the Ottoman or the Osmanli family. It was ruled by during the First World War time, for example, the three pashas were ruling. After that, independence, wartime, so it was the prime ministers were ruling during this time and the parliament, so 1908. Now, because of they started having the parliamentary system, not many Arabs were included. Now, Arabs also started the questioning. It was the time of the Kawakibi also was writing al-Qura, questioning why the Turks are ruling us. So it was a total, different ideas were happening everywhere, not only in Europe. It was also happening in the Muslim world. Everyone is questioning why we are under the Turkish rule, why we are not having the real caliphate, because the Abdul Hamid II was only mentioning that he is the caliph of the khalif of the entire Muslim world. Before that one, they were all considering themselves as the sultans. Now they started the questioning about what rule or what political institution is the best. So the Turks are no more willing to have also anything related to the Arabs, but still this was one of the idea of the young Turks. But at the same time, if we are talking about the overwhelming majority of population, they all were these ideas of Muslim unity and also being able to do everything for the sake of this unity, helping each other, brotherhood. These ideas were widespread among the population. It was not disturbed yet. In the in the Arab world also among the Turks in the Ottoman Empire during this time. Then World War I started. World War I. The main reason for this battle was to kill sick men of Europe. Sick men of Europe was the Ottoman the empire, which was given by the Nicholas I, the Tsar. They said the Ottoman is a sick man of Europe. So World War I started in order to divide the Middle East, which was the territory of the Osmanli at that time yet, Ottomans at that time yet. So during the World War I time, the Ottoman Empire was pushed to go to one side. They needed to join one side. It was at the end, the empire decides to go to the German side, to the great power side, but the Triple Entente in the other side against the Ottomans. So battle is happening, and during this time, now don't forget the British are a Triple Entente now. British, France, Russia are fighting against the Ottomans. But Ottomans are controlling Cairo and the Middle East. But the British also existing in Cairo. So now, but British is the enemy during the battle time. So there were many intrigues, and the Arab revolt did happen in 1916. Sharif Hussein of Mecca decides to revolt against the Ottoman rule and became the caliph of the entire Arab world, only the Arabs. He wants to be the caliph, but his sons are going to fight together with the Lawrence of Arabia. They will, I mean, both sides, during battle time, both sides is killing within 2 years, from 16 until 18, 1916 until 1918. During the more than 2 years, many people from the both sides, the Turks, Arabs, and others. I mean, I am just mentioning these two nations because they were the biggest one. But there were the hundreds of other ethnicities, including non-Muslims, are going to be killed. There will be the battles, and many will be killed. And Ottoman Empire loses everything in the Arab world because of this Arab revolt, because of the fighting against British. British is just playing and pushing the Arabs to fight against the Ottomans, how it was happening during this time. Then also the World War I is going to finish by the total demolition, total collapse of Germany, and Ottomans were fighting together with Germany on one side. So this was the total capitulation of the Ottoman Empire. This will be end of the Ottoman Caliphate. So how it was happening. And as a result, in 1917, when the Arabs were fighting in the Gaza, in the Battle of Gaza, 1917, the British also joined together with the Arabs against the Ottomans, and they captured Al-Quds. From that time, it will be under the protection of the British. After the war, after the battle finishes, it will be the part of the British, control. So it was the end of the Ottoman rule in Al-Quds. So now what we can learn from here, from this history. So this is very long history. I am sorry, I was not able to focus because this is a huge, and when I am speaking about something other, the ideas are coming and really disturbing, and it is not easy to, I am lecturer, it's not easy to give the lecture online because I don't see any of you. I am seeing your names only on my screen, but again, I cannot always read what you are writing. I will go through it very soon if there will be some time, okay? So what we can learn from here? For me, is about, we can learn that what was the main mistake in our history. It is good we have mistake. History happens. We cannot change what did happen in our history. It's how we are taking lesson from history. It's why in the Quran there are many stories in the Quran which are it's repeated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps repeating about Ibrahim alayhi salam, not only in one surah, right? Many surahs repeating about him, about Nuh alayhi salam, about Lut alayhi salam. Why? To take the lessons, Ibra. So what type of the lesson we can take from the explanation? I am just giving some kind of the tips. Other things, it's up to you. Up to your readings, up to your background, up to your understanding, because as I mentioned, it is impossible to explain everything, more than 600 years of history within 1 hour and 10, within 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's very difficult because many important things I didn't mention, and also you can get these things. What we can learn? Number one, I think always in history, whatever happening, the wars and other things, it is happening because of the ego, arrogance, and selfishness of people. It is not about religion. Religion is always used. Even the Crusade Wars time, they wanted to have access to the Holy Land because they wanted to control it. It's about the ego of them because it was the Roman Empire, then Byzantium. They were the superpower. How is possible? One from the Arab country, they are coming, they are capturing what belonged to them according to their understanding. It was about the selfishness and arrogance. So this is what is always motivates men to fight. It is not but religion is always used in order to achieve, because sometimes it's, really is difficult to say this side is only the right one. we are mostly biased when we are. I give to you now history from the Muslim viewpoint as a Muslim historian. But also I try to be very moderate because I grew up in Russia. I know what is being biased. I know I was trained there. I did also education in Russia. So I am trying to be the little bit moderate. But again, if other people will explain history, they will find their own the sources, their own justifications, they will explain. So in history also, this is the number one. History is always tempted to be biased. This is your lesson number one. So it's why we have to listen to other people also. We have to be moderate. And all of our relations are supposed to be based on respect. It might be Muslims, non-Muslims, and listening to the other side and trying to find the common ground. At the end, all of us, we are the children of Adam alayhi salam. I am not saying that the Muslims, only Muslims, supposed to do it. No, the other side also. I mean, we have to somehow, humanity is supposed to learn how to come together, to respect each other as equals. It's why we need the decolonization of the scholarship. We need also to have the free ourselves from the Eurocentric approach in everything, or the supremacy of the Western approach in scholarship. And also we have to be more open from all the Islamic side also, because we keep explaining everything according to our ulama, but we are not reading what other people are talking about. So both sides is we are quite I can see the selfish, and we are not taking lessons from the history. Look, we consider now is situations like this in Palestine is so sad. But do you know how many sad situations were happening there in our history? It is not the first time, right? History passes. The best gift of the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life is time. Time is given only for this life. Time is the solution for all problems. Time is the solution for sicknesses, calamities. Now we are suffering because of this virus, right? It looks no end. We are sitting in the house. I have to speak to you in a such way. Yes, you consider that this is the end of the world. But sabr, just wait a little bit. Time will pass. I don't know what will happen. I am not saying it will be the best one, but time will show. Time is going to show to you what will happen in future. Nothing is the fixed in this world. Time passes, everything passes. Negative becomes positive, positive becomes negative. Slave becomes like the Mamluks, slave becomes the king, king becomes slave. So everything changes. This one also, we have, this is not the saying this will happen, no. We have to also, our perspective supposed to be wider, not only focusing on the enemy, trying to find the guilt, blame each other, no. Our perspective is supposed to be wiser, more understanding. It is what is the meaning of University of Islam. This is the meaning of Rahmatan lil Alamin, how we are dealing with other people. So we have to really be more understanding, more kind, more Rahmatan lil Alamin as Muslims. And also we have to study the situation and work hard, because there are, we are not the best one in the world. We are not the most the hard workings in the world. So these are what I wanted to share to you today. Let me now, I think I started keep repeating the same idea. I am becoming tired because I am just recovering from sickness. It's why I was not able to meet you before yesterday. So I was very ill. Just today I started feeling myself much better. Let me see if you have any questions, because I will be here 6 minutes more, then I will just... Okay, no questions, nothing. So what I wanted to share with you, I think the most of you are from IIUM, my students, or the friends of my students, and Now is the time to tell to the organizer that thank you very much for organizing this interesting and giving this interesting topic to me, because in my teachings also I didn't focus on the Al-Quds. This was giving me opportunity to look at it from the fresh perspective, how the Ottomans were looking at the holy places. So I learned also a lot. I hope that you were also getting some ideas, but this is not the end. You just go, the information is a lot of information. You can just go read and take your lesson and be happy and stay safe in your house, and also take care of yourself, your family, your parents, and also spend your time for good things, not just blaming each other, not trying to find the fault, as I mentioned, to each other, because life is very beautiful and it's very short. Time will pass and it will be end of your life. So just change it, change it for the something good, something valuable. At the end, whoever are you, Christian, Jew, Muslim, you will be happy at the end of your life that you were achieving something. You did something good for humanity, for the country, for your community, for entire humanity. So thank you very much. I am seeing 445 people here. So this is very nice. And you can find me in Facebook, and if any questions, you can friend me. If I will be able to accept all of your the friendship, I will see what are the numbers, and see you in other occasions. And as I mentioned, I wish the best to you and thank you for organizers. And this is the all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.